And now it's time for another transformational episode of the Conscious Life Awakened Speaker Series with your host, Vicki Howie.
Hello, everyone. Vicki here, creator of Chakra Boosters Healing Tattoos and your host for this series. And I'm coming to you from beautiful spiritual epicenter, Sedona, Arizona. And my heart is full today. It really is, but it's also a tad sad because it's just a wee bit, guys, because today's interview is our season finale, and that means it's our last for the year. Now, I just want to tell you what a year this has been. My partner and I, producer Ross Pittman, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts, really, for making this such an amazing speaker series. You know, you set out to do something in the beginning, and you have a vision of what you want it to be, and you have a feeling of what you want it to be, and you guys have really made this what it is. Your energy, your presence, and your love have made it more than we ever thought it could be. And your questions and comments and enthusiasm, so many of you have shared with me via email. I so appreciate that. And you've just really made this series soar. And thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you from the top and the middle, from all of my heart, for being part of our incredible tribe. And thank you also for being a part of this amazing shift. I know you can feel it, the shift that is taking place on the planet right now. For me, I saw it shift in 2012, and we are moving into a feminine paradigm now. Together, we're co-creating a momentum that's eventually going to result in a tipping point of change. And that change, from my perspective, is awareness, embodiment, and love for our planet. That change is moving into a more feminine way of living that is more connected and compassionate and also more embodied, nature-oriented, and present, right? Absolutely present. It's the way of the feminine, and it is expanding, and it cannot be stopped. But in my mind, it cannot expand quick enough. I love it like a blossoming flower. I'm loving watching it. So all this beautifully ties in, by the way, to our topic for today, which is sacred pleasure. Relax into the wellspring of your feminine power. The lovely goddess who will be talking about all this is a Tantra teacher, She's very well known throughout the planet because she's done so much work with sexual awareness and Tantra teaching. Her name is Lisa Schrader of Awakening Shakti. And I'm absolutely overjoyed that we're finishing our season with Lisa because for me, there's nothing on this planet that is needed more right now than a good, deep infusion of delicious, sacred feminine energy. Really, really. And Lisa is a goddess with a capital G. She's a woman who's dedicated to helping us women own our inherent pleasure, our beauty, and our power so we can live in full embodiment and be the change this planet needs. In today's talk, Lisa's going to remind us what we're really made of, right? We just need a reminding because it's the essence of who we are. She's going to show us all how to bring the sacred and the passion back into our love life. Woo! She's going to break through our pleasure blocks, help us open to more ease, joy, and fun, and experience simple tantric lovemaking techniques for whole body ecstasy. So she's going to let us know how we can do that and how to infuse our lives with more passion and play by understanding and embracing the sacred dance of the masculine and feminine energy in lovemaking and in life. So that's sort of what makes the world go around, right, in this apparent duality that's really a unity behind everything. But before we dive into all that, I want to make sure we are fully present and open to taking in all Lisa has to offer. So if you haven't already, please take the time now to get yourself into a comfortable seated position. This present, right, is called the present because it's a gift. So give it to yourself right now. Just come to this moment and gently close your eyes and bring your attention within. Just observe your beautiful breath. That's nice. Notice how it causes your lungs and your belly to softly expand and release. Expanding on the inhale and relaxing and releasing with the exhale. Notice the nice, gentle rhythm of your breath. So even, so sweet. You may feel it lulling you into a relaxed state because it feels so good to just relax and let go, doesn't it? Now, take a moment to lightly rub your hands together and do it a little more quickly until the friction makes them feel warm and a little energized. And then with great care and love, place both of your hands on the lowest part of your belly. Just hold yourself here, feel the warmth. With each breath, feel your warm hands rising and falling, undulating with your lower belly, up and down, gently up and down, or in and out. Just feel how it goes out and in. Focus on your heart center for a moment now, right in the middle of your chest, the energy center. It may be larger than you think, and very expanded in this moment as you bring so much loving attention to yourself. Imagine now that your heart chakra is sending warm, loving energy down both of your arms into your pelvis by way of your palms, loving your feminine center fully and unconditionally. Now, on the next inhale, draw powerful healing energy from your hips up your spine to your heart. And on the exhale, send that energy out the front of your chest, back down towards your lower belly. Inhale that pelvic energy again up your spine to your heart. Exhale that love energy back out and down to your pelvis. Keep making these loving loops. Inhaling the hip energy up your spine to your heart. Exhaling out through the heart, forward and back down into your hips. Up your spine and out through your heart. Down and into your pelvis. And inhaling up your spine again. Out your heart and down into your pelvis. And now if it feels comfortable to do so, you can gently reverse the loops and inhale hip energy when you're ready from the front of your pelvis up to your heart, into your heart, and then exhale that loving heart energy down your spine into your hips. Inhale from your pelvis upward into the front of your heart, and exhale that loving energy down your spine to your feet. A few more times. Inhale from your hips up into your heart. Exhale heart energy down your spine to your hips. Inhale from the front of your pelvis up into your heart. Exhale that love energy down your spine and into your hips. Now let that loop just move. Allow your unconscious now to continue to run these powerful loops of feminine energy through your heart and hips, energizing you, connecting them as if you're loving yourself more and more with every breath for the rest of the day, or even the rest of the week if you want. Just silently request that it does so now. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes Good. Nice, everybody. Beautiful feeling. I love hearing, or feeling, actually, everyone on the call. It's so beautiful. So much more feminine energy today, and I always love that. So thank you for being here. Now, I think we're ready for our Tantra teacher now and our special guest, Lisa Schrader. It's her purpose and pleasure, actually, to help women from all walks of life across the globe tap into their inner wellspring of authentic feminine power, or Shakti. That's what it's called. She is the founder of Awakening Shakti, and she's been in private practice since 2001. Her work as a Tantra and sacred sexuality teacher has been featured on numerous networks, including Oprah, Oxygen, and VH1, and she's achieved the designation of professional certified coach with the International Coach Federation. Lisa has empowered thousands of women globally with her amazing workshops in person and online. She's a graduate of UCLA and a faculty member of the Shift Network. She's also the host of the annual Shakti Summit Global Teleseminar event. She writes and she speaks widely and has authored many published articles and 2 essential books. Kama Sutra 52, a year's worth of the best positions for passion and pleasure from Quiver Books, and her own popular ebook, Getting Started with Tantra. Lisa lives what she teaches 100% and has designed a sensual and abundant life that she absolutely loves in the Sierra foothills of Northern California. You can find out more by visiting her at awakeningshakti.com. It's such a pleasure and a joy to welcome Lisa Schrader today. Oh, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us, honey.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this beautiful field of Shakti that's right here, right now, Vicki. I'm just so delighted. What a joy to, and a rare joy to enter an interview feeling this relaxed and connected and into such a fertile field. So what a blessing that is. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you you inspired it all, and thanks for we know you can catapult from wherever, so I figured we should start at a little bit higher level or deeper, depending on how you want to look at it, right? It's both higher in the sacred sense and deeper in the feminine embodiment sense. So the first thing I want to start with, Lisa, is I purposely tried not to do too much of your stuff or look at too much of your stuff because I wanted to engage with you with newness today, and I'm loving this because I rarely do this. And I just felt this real desire to come new. And what I find with almost all of my speakers, and you're a host of the summit too, so you've probably experienced this, is there's always this shamanistic story, right, of self-healing. It's an initiation that has to happen for the healer. So that's the first thing I want to know from you is, what is your sexual story? How did you come to teach Tantra?
Well, because it felt so broken. Right? Just like you just pointed to. So, when I look back on my journey, I can see now, like a lot of us can, once we find our Dharma path, or what feels like our destiny path, we look back and we're like, oh, no wonder that happened. No wonder that happened. No wonder that happened. I could sort of see how it all came into place. But the experience, frankly, inside of my marriage, I was married for 20 years to a beautiful man who's still a very dear friend of mine and co-parent, my husband, and we've been married for close to 10 years or so, and we were feeling really stuck, in our intimacy and in our passion. And so we thought, well, where are we going to go get information about that? How's that? And that's really, what led us to this tantric path. But the precursor to that, which is an important one, which was really the one of the key dark night of the soul pieces, was that after the birth of our daughter, I had 2 miscarriages. after that, and they just broke my heart, Vicki. And I desperately wanted to have more children. I loved being a mom, and it was so heartbreaking that it really opened up this whole deep inquiry for me about what I had control over and what I didn't have control over. And that really led me into looking at how much of what I would say now is my masculine energy I was running in my life. Very busy, professional woman, do, go, running the house, handling things, striving, improving, growing, going all the time. And when I lost both of those pregnancies, the first one felt kind of like a fluke, and the second one was like, oh, whoa, yeah, God has just got my attention here. And when I went through the deep grieving of that process, and I started to really look at my life and, frankly, our marriage, our sensuality, our sexuality was really focused for me on bringing these babies into the world. And when that door closed, a whole new door started opening for us, like, oh, wow, what would it look like, our sexuality, if it wasn't focused on this goal of having more children, but it was actually something that was a access point for us to something deeper, and particularly something that was more sacred. And so it was kind of that whole process that brought me to this path. And initially the path was about healing for me around, this big shift of not being a mom the way that I wanted to, but very quickly, it started growing in a way that was so much bigger than sex, like bigger than just techniques for improving things between my husband and I in the bedroom, which it did, but more of a way of living life, embracing all that was happening and not rejecting any part of it, and coming deeper into my Shakti, my divine feminine, and then being asked to start teaching that and sharing that with others, and how quickly that snowballed, particularly getting put on Oprah really, really early on in my career when I hardly knew what I was doing, and this very clear message from the universe that, like, we want you to do this, we want you to go out, and teach this, and teach it not from, decades of study and living in the ashram in India and working with a guru, but would you please just go out and teach it to the world from your own sort of very vulnerable place, your own knowing of what this is in its perfect imperfection, and be a teacher that way. And what a blessing that was. It was pretty backward in the way that my idea of how it was supposed to go was. And it's also been such a blessing, Vicki, because I continue to explore on my own in my own workshop of life and relationship and love, and then bring it to my students and encourage them, because everybody, I think, certainly that's attracted to your series already knows that their guru, is inside. It's wonderful to have the external guru and the teachers and the coaches and the guides. I have many of those as well, but particularly when it comes to our sensuality, our sexuality, and our Shakti, we are the experts. And so to support women and the men who love them in coming more deeply into this wellspring of Shakti that's inside of us and letting it be the teacher has really been so gratifying to me, and feels also like what we're searching for. So many of us are searching for right now is somebody to help guide us in one of my teachers is talking about the involution versus the evolution, and that's a very feminine movement to go inside, right? To go inside the body in the embodied practices to find the way of coping, living, celebrating this crazy, beautiful, chaotic life that we're living here at this pivotal moment, as you mentioned, on planet Earth.
Wow. Thank you for walking us through that. And I know I've seen so much pain on the shamanic path, and my heart really goes out for you. And I love how you talk about your heart broke open. I mean, because so often we forget about it's those wrenching, just like, things we can't control that just that we desire or that we love, and then there's a loss, and we just we break, and in that breaking, that's the space that we're able to involve, do the involution, because now we have a crack to go in. Exactly. So I appreciate your courage with that. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this because I have so many different things I want to ask you, but my mind, and I'm wondering if others listening, goes to, okay, so here you are going through this. Now, you are at a 10-year point in your marriage, right? So what happened with the marriage? Because it's so interesting to me how, as we deal with our own sexuality, yes, many times it will strengthen the relationship we're in. Sometimes it will strengthen it, but, on a sexual level, but still it makes it very clear that it's time for us to go our separate ways or whatever, because really the ultimate dance is with ourselves, with the animus inside, with the feminine and masculine within us, right? And then we're playing with someone else when we do that. So can you just fill in a few of the blanks of sort of like when you first started, and then how that, because you and your husband went after it at first, and like how that looked, and then when it became your own, like your own practice and not yours and his.
Well, the second very intense dark night of the soul period for me, Vicki, was when he chose to leave the marriage. And that happened in 2007. So, at that moment, and of course, all of us who have gone through, the incredible yoga of relationship and marriage, we know we all bring something, we always bring our parts to that. And so, although it was frankly, a totally traumatic shock to me when he sat me down and said, Lisa, I need you to let me go. I literally looked at him. We were sitting on the couch. It's one of those moments you don't ever forget. And I said, sure, love, where do you want to go? And he started crying, and he said, no, I need you to let me go. And I couldn't understand. I'm like, what are you talking about? And it just was so shocking to me that was his choice. And actually, bless his heart, he didn't look back. Like, he moved, he for various reasons found his truth, and it was one of the most decisive things I've ever seen him do, and he stuck to that path, that truth for himself, that he needed to move on. And it was a blessing, I think, because in the way I thought it was supposed to be, it's like, he says, hey, I think I don't want to be married anymore. And we go like, oh, whoa, really? Okay, well, what's going on there? And maybe we should go see a marriage therapist, and we would work on it for a while. Or, my parents who got divorced and, not divorced, they got separated together, and then finally divorced. That was like a 10-year process through my childhood. I was actually grateful that in a lot of ways we didn't spend years going through that process. It was just, it was over. And when I look back at that, of course, that was the next really profound point of awakening for me through the tragedy of that. And that was to really take a look at what marriage meant to me, right? So I really believed that marriage would last for life, that, we were soulmates and that's the way it was going to be. I'm not pretending that it was perfect. We were definitely had gone through a lot of periods of, conflict, but underneath it all, I believed that, he and I would be together forever. And so that was a profound moment for me to take a real look at certainly how I contributed to that decision that he made. There was plenty of ways that I did that. But also, what was the marriage that I could always count on? Which, of course, ultimately takes us back to our relationship with ourself and our relationship with spirit. And that was the next level of deepening into, you know, what we call maybe the inner marriage, my own masculine and feminine. And how did I want to be in both sacred marriage and, frankly, erotic union within myself? You know, like the Shiva, the masculine presence inside of me, what were the aspects of that I could count on, right? Like my ability to be disciplined, my ability, now I know, to financially take care of myself in that moment. I didn't believe I could take care of myself financially. It was one of those really terrifying, questions for me. Now I know that I can support myself because I'm doing that beautifully, you know, and so it was an incredible initiation into my own wholeness, and then also a whole bunch of initiations with some beautiful men and lovers to bring me to the beloved relationship that I'm now in with my partner Michael. And you know, I have to say we celebrated Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, just on Sunday with my husband and his beautiful girlfriend, who was a goddess sister of mine, and I set them up, you know, and now I have this amazing, you know, dear goddess sister friend who I get to hang out with, you know, my husband, who I love and adore, and, you know, the four of us can, believe it or not, hang out now, right, and just have beautiful times together, and even go to my ex-mother-in-law's, you know, 90th birthday and Rosh Hashanah celebration and be all a family together. So, you know, that didn't happen overnight. You know, that's taken a lot of years to get there. But
that's awesome.
You know, the blessing too, just going back to like, well, whoa, what happened in the marriage was there was such incredible shifts that took place for he and I as we stepped onto the tantric path, and we actually taught. You know, we taught this work together for many, many years, and we watched a lot of other couples be touched by it and shift things. And, you know, it didn't ultimately, quote unquote, save the marriage, but what I'm also clear about now is it was never meant to save the marriage. It was never meant, I can see now that we weren't meant to be together forever, obviously. And the blessings that have come as he's followed his path and I have found mine and my centering are just so remarkable. You know, the testament of that is our ability to have this amazing, you know, time together just a couple of days ago. So, yeah.
Well, bravo. Bravo.
Yeah.
Because anytime I hear stories, you know, I am hearing more of that these days, and I love that because, you know, there's love. Once there's love, there can always be love. You know, it's just whether we can continue to honor that love. But what I'm hearing from you, and let me know if this is kind of fair, but that the practice of Tantra, and Tantra is a yogic thing, and I'm going to ask you in a minute about the Shakti because we should probably address what that is, but the practice of yoga is really a practice of truth. And so you're not ever trying to save any one path, because us with our little ideas and our little vision, we don't know near as well as the divine does, right? So it sounds like, you know, what I see happen is when we go into these practices, the truth is revealed, and ultimately that truth always makes us happier. Always. It might not look like we originally thought, you know, whether it be the person, the job, the whatever that it is. But it seems to always lead us to a deeper sense of self, a deeper sense of purpose, and therefore more happiness, more joy. And yeah, I love that, because some people get confused and they think, oh, well, this can be used like a little tool to do X. No, that's the ego talking, and yes, it can be used for, say, directly usually to access more pleasure, to access the relationship. But in the larger picture of your life, like you said, what I loved that you said in the beginning, and it really struck me when you said it, was just, and I'm only paraphrasing here, but you were like, what you learned in the hardship of the aftermath after birthing your daughter and going through everything that you went through was that you don't get to control it. You're not the one with the dials, You're not the wizard behind the curtain, So anyway, can you share with us maybe, let's just get a few definitions, maybe share with us what is Shakti exactly, since we're going to be talking a lot about it, and what is Tantra?
So Shakti is universal life force energy, right? So it's the power in the universe. It's the movement of the universe. It's the creative force, and it's feminine in nature in that way. So Shiva, the counterpoint of in the masculine, is presence, or sometimes it's considered awareness. And so, in the Hindu stories, you have Shiva, who's been meditating for millions of years on the top of his mountain, and he's completely in a blissed out state of presence. But he was neglecting his worldly duties as Lord King of the universe. And so the God said, we need to bring something into, wake him up out of his trance. And that was Shakti, of course, the feminine, right, in her beauty and her movement and her life force energy. And so very often they're depicted together, right, of that image of sort of that Buddha-like Shiva who's cross-legged and blue and just like, the Zen master of all Zen masters in full presence. And then Shakti, the feminine life force, is usually in some kind of a contortion, straddling him, and she's bringing life force to him. And of course, it's that dance of, you could say, presence or consciousness and life force, power, right? Creativity of the feminine, the earthiness, the embodiment. It's these two qualities together that create life, right? Create human life, create all life on the planet. So that's really what we're talking about, whether we're talking about how that lives in each of us. Of course, we are each a product of Shiva and Shakti, of the sperm of our father and the ovum of our mother, right? We are that. We are that combination, and that lives inside of us in our own inner marriage. And so that's the Shakti, and Tantra is a word that describes a way of being or a path, a spiritual path. It's very, very, very broad. I don't pretend to be an expert on Tantra. There's many, many different lineages and paths on the Tantric path. It's very often associated with sexuality here in the West, but and it includes that, but is not limited to that. It tends to be the part of it that we're most interested in here, and that's a good gateway for us, in around our sexuality, because as we begin to connect with and liberate more of the Shakti inside of our body, and particularly the Kundalini Shakti, the sexual energy, they say the purpose of that Kundalini is, of course, to go through the body, through the chakras, as you know, Vicki, and clear out and liberate and open up all of our energy centers so that we can be more vessels of light, be more vessels of radiance, be more awake to the ultimate union that we are as divine beings on the planet.
Yeah, beautiful. Love the way you put that. Well, we made a lot of promises on this call, so I am going to be talking to you very quick here about, about pleasure and how we can move to that. But first, I just want to spend just a moment more on the quote-unquote problem, because really, for me, when I look at it, it's been 5,000 years. I don't know what your numbers are, but for me as a yoga teacher in that, it's been about 5,000 years of masculine rule. And for me, 2012 was about that turn, was about that moving back to the goddess. So can you tell me, what are you seeing in our culture that, why are we so masculinized, and what are you seeing that's masculinized, and how is it hurting us? And then can you just start now to give us some ways that we can begin to shift away from that and own back some of our feminine, embody more of our Shakti.
Great. That's a great, big diving board right there.
Go for it.
The thing I want to remind us of, because it's so easy for us with the language that we use in English to slip into when we think of masculine, of being, that equates with men, and feminine equates with women.
Yes.
It's really hard for us not to have our brains go there, because we so often associate it with that. So it's just really, I want to just remind us that, some of the most, what I would say is sort of like hardcore, masculine energy people that I know have a female body, right? And some of the softest, most gentle, most Shakti-filled beings that I know have a male body. So we're not necessarily talking about men and women here. We're talking about these energies, right? We could call them Shiva Shakti, or yin and yang, or masculine and feminine. So, the shift that I see, and mostly right now, in my work, I find that my gift is really with women, although I do work with many men and couples, and I love to do that. But, what I'm seeing in the women who are my clients and in my programs is just this real awakening to the ways that they have inside of themselves defaulted to, that more conditioned masculine way of being, right? So we know what that looks like, and we can certainly see the impact of, that 5,000 years in so many ways, just by looking out at the world and the planet. There's of course, for all of us, again, because we're all part of this, it's that, overemphasis on the mind, on the intellect, and on the thinking. And we're learning how to come more back deeply into the body, right, into the feeling world inside of our emotional life and our heart. So this is a real big piece that we claim as we reclaim as we're awakening our Shakti, is the potency of our emotional life, the power that's inside of that, inside of the heart, and the creativity and the connection that we have with the earth through embodied practices, right? So, like we were talking about that word involution, it's involved. I'm involved in life. I'm involved with my body. I'm present to that versus disconnecting with the mind. So there's also a way that we're reclaiming our sexuality and our sensuality, right? I mean, we're still, even if we've been raised in really liberal families, I was raised, I'd say, in a pretty sex-positive family where there was a lot of love and a fair amount of affection, and pretty liberal Southern California parents. But even with that, the intensity of the DNA programming, I believe, that we're dealing with around shame, around our sexuality, and even around pleasure, right? That there goes back to that puritanical, we have to work really hard, and there's more of an emphasis on suffering than on joy. It's more acceptable, even still, to complain about how stressed out and busy you are and overwhelmed than to say, like, oh my God, I've had such an orgasmic day. I've just been rolling around in pleasure all day today. It's not really okay. Is that really okay to say that? Like, am I going to piss people off? Are they going to be jealous? Are they going to look at me like, what? Like, how, why are you having a day like that? Why aren't you working? Or why aren't you doing anything productive, right? So it's just that, that kind of programming, and certainly with the busyness too, that's a very way that we run our masculine energy, that doing, that overscheduling, that feeling like we have to produce all of the time and schedule all of the time, versus us being more in our feminine Shakti flow, where we are present in the moment and we're moving maybe from one thing to the next. We're honoring our rhythms. We're resting. We're listening. We're taking time for our spiritual practice or making our green smoothies or laying on the grass or watching the clouds go by or whatever that is that helps us renew and feel whole and human, right? So there's lots of ways that, that's just a tiny scratch of the surface, but lots of ways that we're really, it's not about rejecting our masculine. We need that, You and I talking about this a lot this week, right, Vicki? We need our ability to discern and, get emails out to invite people to calls like this and manage, business and our work as entrepreneurial women. So our ability to do that, our masculine, is very important. It's not that we want to reject that, but we do want to bring, ideally, what I'm finding in my life is, wow, does everything get a lot yummier and, frankly, more prosperous and more abundant on every level when I bring Shakti into her rightful place, on her throne as co-creator, right, with my own Shiva, with my own masculine. Like, they need to be in sacred union for my world to evolve and involve in such the, frankly, incredible and beautiful way that it is. And I'm noticing and discovering for myself that, the more I welcome her in, the better it gets. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of us are realizing that, we are in grave danger of destroying everything with this hypermasculine way that we've been consuming and pushing. We need to welcome back in, all of us, the qualities of the feminine.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I love how you started that out talking about the orgasmic, because it's so funny, words and what we'll accept. I've noticed that even using the word goddess, it has a lot of energy around it. Like, for me, it's as a teacher who's also, I teach yoga and have a long lineage, a tantric lineage. Goddess is such a positive word. So in the beginning, I would use it and not think twice, and I would find that, especially since I've been doing work at CLN, and I'll write on the Facebook page sometimes, and I'll write emails, and sometimes I'll get someone upset, like they won't want to be called a goddess. Do you have any thoughts around that? Like,
yeah,
you experienced any of that?
Yeah, some, and that's that's okay. I mean, what I feel like part of what I feel is the gift of Shakti. One of the pieces I teach in my program is to activate the Shakti that's in our throat chakra by speaking our truth. And at least in terms of what I offer, I feel like all we can do is follow what feels like our own true path, hopefully a path with heart, as consciously as we can. And to, if we're entrepreneurs or we're teachers or we're authors or we're offering, healing services or whatever we're doing, we offer as authentically as we can the thread, right, that we offer. And some will resonate and some won't, and that's okay. I mean, it's okay that everybody doesn't want to be called a goddess, or, as I'm teaching women about embracing their bodies, some women love the word yoni, some women, that we have all kinds of different words even for our anatomy that resonate.
So what words
who knows
do we have? I want to, so yoni, vagina, like, is there just a ton of words for our female anatomy?
Exactly.
That people are using?
Right, and we have to find the one that it feels resonant inside of us, right? It's okay that we don't all use the same words, right? Or that we don't all follow the same path, I love Walt Whitman's quote, disregard everything you've been told, or re-examine everything you've been told and dismiss what insults your soul. And so, for some women, the word goddess feels insulting to the soul, or it triggers something in them, and that's okay. For some of us, we don't do well with the word God. Some of us like the word spirit. I had one very religious person once tell me, don't use the word spirit. There's all kinds of spirits. There's bad spirits and there's evil spirits. And I was like, wow, okay. yeah, like for that person, the word spirit didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, fine. So we, some of us like the word source. It's really hard to put language, even the word pleasure. Like here we were talking about sacred pleasure, right? And now even for that, for a lot of us, that word feels really triggering, right? And, I have one client who said, I need to substitute the word joy for pleasure, and then I can hear everything you have to say. I'm like, great, substitute the word joy then, because for many of us, pleasure has been taboo, or it's felt dangerous, like I think we all can look back on our lives and like, well, wow, it felt really good in the moment, and I felt like I'm just going to go for this thing that feels pleasurable, whether that's a sexual thing or whether that was, finishing the rest of the ice cream or whatever it was, and then we had regrets about that, right? And we were like, oh, yeah, well, I need to be careful of pleasure. But we got to just remember that what's exciting to me is to liberate the Shakti or the energy inside of pleasure. And it is, it's a tricky path, in this way, working with our sexuality, if we're exploring that aspect of our tantric path and pleasure, it can feel like that sort of slippery slope, right? We tend to want to either overindulge, that's one place we go, or we try to repress it. We feel afraid of it, or, we've been told it's sinful, or we've had a bad experience in the past, and so we like, oh, I gotta shove that into the corner, or put that in Pandora's box. What's actually more interesting to me in my own life too is what is this kind of middle way, which oftentimes for me looks like slipping into one area and then slipping into the other area, and because that's how I find my way. But what does it look like to open to, the Shakti that is inside of the pleasure as, for me, a gateway into the divine, which is one of the core principles of almost all tantric paths, is that pleasure can be a gateway into the divine.
And so for someone listening, can you get real specific, like when you've experienced it that way, or a client who's experienced that way, so they can actually get a tangible example of this is someone experiencing pleasure and touching on a sense of the divine?
Well, let's talk about the ultimate pleasure, which for many of us is orgasm. Right? Like if we were to go to like, wow, when do I feel the most, most pleasure? So it's interesting that when many of us are at that moment of climax or orgasm, we say things like, oh my God.
My God.
Yeah. Right? And there's a kind of death. In French, it's called le petit mort. They actually have a phrase for orgasm that is a little death. It is a kind of death to a feeling, could be a feeling of separation, right? We die to that feeling of being separate. We feel that we are coming into a feeling of oneness or wholeness. There's a kind of feeling sometimes of, especially for making love and having an orgasm with somebody we deeply love, a feeling of merging, souls merging connection that takes us out of the domain of feeling separate from each other, from ourselves, from the Big Bang origin of the universe, right? God. Whatever, it's hard to find language around that, but that's a really tangible example for us of orgasmic pleasure very often being a gateway into an ecstatic experience of God. But taking it even out of the domain of sexual pleasure, for me, as a student of pleasure and as somebody who has crafted an entire life and a business and a sanctuary space I get to live in and work in around pleasure, there is this red glass candle in front of me right now, Vicki, that is the most exquisite color red. And I'm a girl who likes red. And inside of this beautiful vessel of red glass is a white candle that has burned down. I've been burning this particular candle for almost a week now. And so there's the flame, you know, that I'm seeing through this red glass, and it's flickering, and it's just so beautiful. Like, for me, this is such an example of beauty that when I allow myself in this moment, I'm hoping I can just transmit this to everybody listening. When I allow myself in this moment to actually get present to just the beauty of this light and this one little flame inside of this color of red, this vessel of red, this chalice of red, I feel a wave of emotion. I feel tears, and I feel just deeply touched by the beauty that's there. There's a kind of suspension of my thoughts, my judgments, and a kind of dropping into this moment that feels divine to me in encountering this that I call beauty, which for me brings me to a deep state of pleasure.
We're a sister tribe of red lovers. Because you know what? Even today, I had a can of the most exquisite beet juice. It's like made in Europe and then imported or something. So I open it because, like, you know, if I can do it fresh, I do it. But to me, there's just beauty. I know it sounds like such a funny thing, but that rich red, the taste of it, the texture of it, the color of it, it looks like vibrant aliveness to me, the way blood is, right? And so I spilled it on the counter this morning, and I grabbed a white paper towel, and I was wiping it up real quick. I had to run to teach a yoga class, you know, where there's that run, do. But even in that moment, you know, I knew that I was connected to that Shakti aspect because it was like sensual, like wiping up this red juice and, you know, like picking it up and holding it in my hand for a minute and then putting it, you know, away over there. So it was just really, like, I get exactly what you're talking about, and it's just about being in the body. But let's just say a little more specifically, because, you know, like you said, our culture tends to be masculinized, not like men, but masculinized or masculine. So a lot of us, women who work 9 to 5, for instance, I work for myself, I work more than 9 to 5, but luckily I enjoy it and have pleasure along the way. But they're working that 9 to 5, there can be a tendency to really get in that mindset. So how can whether they call it pleasure or joy, whatever they want to call it, how can they begin to access it more?
Well, the first thing I would say is, if at all possible, consider weaving it in. So another definition of Tantra is weaving. And a lot of what we do is we compartmentalize, and sometimes we need to, you know, like sometimes we really need to be like, okay, you know, I'm got to get this thing done. I'm just going to power down. I'm just going to focus. I'm just going to do it. But even 9 to 5, and even if you've got a crazy day, you know, I would ask each of us to consider, how can you weave pleasure into your day? Maybe it looks like, you know, putting a candle like this next to your computer while you're working, or flowers there, or maybe it looks like wearing really yummy silky underwear that just feels really good. It's on under your business suit, for example. Maybe it looks like, I don't know, for me, I'm just loving having my nails painted lately. I type a lot on my laptop, and I love the little click, click, click of my nails on the computer screen and on the computer keypad, and I love it, the different colors that I'm painting them. Like, that just turns me on. It makes me happy and brings me pleasure. So, you know, the first question would be to ask yourself, you know, what does pleasure mean to you? You know, what brings you pleasure, right? So I like this red candle. Vicki loves beet juice. Like, you know, what turns you on? Like, what is actually pleasurable for you? And then see how you can start weaving more of that in, you know, so that it's not feeling like compartments, like, oh, I work, and then I have to go home, and I have to do the laundry and take care of dinner, and I have to put the kids to bed, it's time with the kids, and I'm sorry, but the only time I have for pleasure is like 30 minutes before I'm going to sleep from, 10 to 10:30, and I'm exhausted. Okay, well, yeah, that I would recommend that you try to create even little tiny islands during your day so that you're not, starving yourself all day for what feels like a connection to your own sensuality or pleasure. And if you really do have to focus, and compartmentalize, then make sure that you give yourself some breathing room after, right? Or you really do create time over the weekend. Life will chew up your time, right? It happens all of the time. So what does it look like for you to be in an inquiry about what are your rhythms and how can you, and what are those things that bring you more pleasure, whether it's sensual or sexual or anything else? Because what I notice when women start to do this, then suddenly if they've been nourishing themselves with whatever brings them pleasure throughout the day, when it comes to actually activating their sexual pleasure, which is a kind of a different arc of our pleasure, then it's not like they're starting from scratch. They're like, oh yeah, I've already nurtured my senses today, and I have a little something to give to myself if you're loving yourself, or to someone else, right? So that it's more integrated in your life.
So I want to just honor Pramila, because she wrote in, she said, as an individual who has chosen to embody my Shiva Shakti solo in my 70s, I dance and write with my energy force. I'm a happy social being without a partner. How can I continue to remain healthy and whole on the path that I have chosen? For now, I did a short journal entry that emerged this morning on floodgates and fluidity. It was orgasmic.
Yes.
So good for Pramila. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yes,
Beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it sounds to me like you're on your way. Like you're by that share, you're honoring that. And I also spent, a period of time after the end of my marriage solo and celibate, just not wanting to share my sexual energy with anyone else. It was really a healing time for me, and I learned a lot about myself inside of that. And, I have to say, even now that I've got this amazing, wonderful, incredible sexual partner and lover and soulmate in my life, the quality, of orgasmic energy that runs through me and through my day as I encounter beauty and encounter pleasure, and I allow myself to be in exactly what you're speaking of, Pramila, in that inner marriage. It's so exquisite for me to be in that, and when I get to share that with Michael, that's a whole nother experience. But it doesn't preclude that I am my own lover. Right? Mm-hmm. And so often when we hear that, we think like, oh yeah, I masturbate every once in a while. Not just talking about masturbating, although that's beautiful. I think making love to ourselves and accessing our sexual pleasure like that and being orgasmic in that way is really wonderful. But I am more and more stepping into what does it look like to run that energy all the time, that orgasmic energy, right? To live orgasmically. To feel that connection to our heart and to sacredness and to our sexual energy as part of what it means to be a woman who's tapped into her Shakti. And that is really magnetic. Like, as I live in that, that's how life starts to become more easy and joyful and fun, right? We talked about that in one of our bullets. It's like by living in that place, it's like it's amazing to me how attractive I am. And I don't mean like people are hooting and hollering at me when I walk down the street, sometimes, but less and less often, I notice. But more like, these sweet connections with people, eye contact with people, doors opening literally, but also figuratively, invitations arriving, right? Like this one, Vicki, like I didn't go out and find you, you found me, and boom, there was this like, obvious radiance or something that was there, and you offered me this beautiful invitation, to speak to your tribe and co-create with you. Like that keeps happening to me. And then life becomes easier. Like I'm not, in this example, I'm not out pounding the pavement looking for places to speak. In fact, I'm getting such a wave of invitations for that I get to sit and go like, I'll take that one, not that one, I'll do this one, not that one, right? Like and that's easy.
The feminine.
That's becoming easy for me now. It's not, I don't have to exhaust myself in pursuit of things. And I believe that's, there's many reasons that's happening, but I think the biggest one is that I keep anchoring into her inside of me, right? And these practices and living my life in a way that nourishes that, and that in and of itself is generative.
I think we're taught just so much that we've got to go get it, that it's really hard to get that to sink in, and we have to experience it to sink in, but we have to allow for it and act from a place of our feminine to allow it to start to happen. We have to release some of that trying, going, doing, which is really, there's nothing wrong with it, but a lot of it sometimes comes from a lack of trust that things will come, or lack of understanding of our own magnetism. But the question that came to me when you were talking about all this, and I've talked to some girlfriends before about this, when a woman's in a relationship, say, because you worked with so many women, have you heard women say, well, my partner doesn't see me as sexy, my partner doesn't treat me with respect, or have you heard those kinds of things? And if a woman's in a relationship where she's feeling that, what would be your advice to her to begin to, give herself what she needs, excuse me, or, gosh, I think, being an empath, when I get that, this is a resonant question on the call for the listeners.
Yeah, well, and of course, it's such a big question. I mean, if I was coaching somebody who'd spend a lot of time kind of looking at all of the pieces of this, I mean, what the truth is, sometimes relationships have served their course, right, or their purpose, and sometimes that can be a sign that, these paths are parting. It can be a sign that there's work to be done to have the two people come into deeper connection, right? Like, no, this is a marriage we want to work on, or a relationship we want to work on, intimacy that we want to work on. So there's kind of just knowing where are we in the arc of this relationship, right? And it's, I always, if I was coaching a couple there, I would definitely support them to communicate. I think it's important for us as women to say what it is that we're needing, like I'm really longing for, more compliments from you, or longing to know that you find me attractive. It could be that that's actually there, but it's not being communicated, right? Like a lot of men will be like, what do you mean? I think you're gorgeous. Like, you walk across the room and, I still get turned on by you. And she's like, well, I don't feel that, or I don't know that, or you don't say that, or, and so it could be that it's a lack of communication. And it could be that there really is, a lack of attraction. And sometimes that can be worked with polarity, right? Like, a lot of women will come to me with that issue, and I listen to them speak, and they'll be like, and I've told him he needs to do da-da-da-da, and I've told him da-da-da-da-da, and I've been asking him, why doesn't he go do this or go do that or da-da-da, and I'm listening to them, I'm like, wow, okay, if anything's going to change, I have to do it myself. It's always been like that. He just doesn't take initiative, da-da-da-da. And, that all may be true. That all may be true. But that kind of, if you are a woman who wants and feels mostly aligned sexually with your feminine essence, and you are with a man who is aligned with his masculine essence, not always that way, then that way of approaching it and trying to fix it is throwing you into the masculine energy, which means that's going to repel your masculine partner, not turn him on, not make him want to come closer to you, right? And so what's more effective, if that's the dynamic, is to stop trying to fix it or direct it or say you should read this book or you should do this, you should do that, which is very directive, but to, again, drop into your own feminine, which might mean, working on some of your own awakening Shakti practices, like, wow, you know what? I'm going to start nurturing myself and my own feminine and finding out what that looks like. We so often have been taught, I know this was handed down to me by my mom, that in order to feel sexy and sensual and feminine, we need to have a man who's going to reflect that to us. Now, it's lovely if that happens, right? That is really wonderful. But men come and go, right? And if we don't own that and we don't know that inside of ourselves and we're feeling dependent on that kind of validation outside, then I think we put ourselves in a vulnerable place. So when we're feeling our own wholeness, we can drop into our hearts and maybe even our vulnerability or grief over what's happening. Like I'm so longing to be touched and seen in this way, and it hurts that I'm not. And can I be with literally the Shakti inside of that grief rather than trying to fix it or make it go away? Can I embrace that that's where I am right now? It helps us drop into the power inside of our vulnerability, and that can become very, very attractive. That will engender something, excuse the pun, totally different in masculine than us trying to tell him what to do.
And you actually when you say that, I think some people think that you're not literally meaning it like energy, but you're meaning it literally like the energetics that are going on underneath, right? So there's, like if you try to put two magnets next to each other, right, that both have an outward force field, they go against each other, right? So
exactly.
Either what you get, it sounds like what you get in this case is if you're going to insist on the masculine, you're either going to get a man becoming increasingly feminine, right? Or a man who continues to be masculine and you just butt heads all the time. And neither one of those sounds very attractive.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
And we've probably all experienced that,
In our culture, absolutely. So, we're getting along in time here. I want to make sure, because we made a promise, I believe you made a promise to your people as well, that we would do an activation process, a sensual activation process. So I would love to do that if we can do that now, because we've talked a lot about, why it's so nice to drop in. Let's drop in.
That's a great idea, because that's a perfect segue. Yeah, let's just drop out of the mind here. A lot of ideas might be swirling in you. A lot of feelings might be coming up inside of you. Just welcome all of that, and let's bring it into the body a little bit. Let's actually do some practice together, which I love to do. And so I'd like to share this sensual activation process with you so that we can get more tuned into our senses. And so I'm going to invite you, as I'm describing it a little bit, to go back into that beautiful centering, grounding that Vicki led us through at the beginning of the call, and find that seat in yourself. Get yourself in a comfortable spot. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and connect with your breath. And just let go. A couple of big, deep exhales. Just notice if your shoulders have gotten a little jacked up, and just big breath in. Just really letting things go, letting your shoulders go. And also tuning into your whole pelvic cradle. Are you finding that you're clenching in your anus or your yoni? And just see if you can just send some breath, and with your awareness and consciousness, just letting your body relax a little bit. and deepening your breath. And we're going to work a little bit with our senses, because the senses are our gateway into pleasure, right? We can't experience pleasure without them. Imagine something pleasurable that you could experience if you didn't have your senses. And so let us tune into pleasure through our senses, because they are the gateway in, and they are also such a valuable way for us to become present, to drop out of the mind, right, and actually become present. Because we can't experience our senses or our sensuality if we're not here. We have to be here in this moment. We can imagine what it would be like to drink the beet juice that Vicki so enjoyed earlier today. But to actually taste it, we have to be in the present moment in the tasting of that juice. So our senses are a very powerful tantric tool for accessing presence. So let us first tune into our sense of hearing. And I'm going to invite you to bring 100% of your awareness, as much as you possibly can right now, to, in this very moment, what you are hearing, the sounds in your environment. And just taking a breath as you have maybe noticed the layer of sound in your environment. You have my voice and that kind of white noise on our phone line. And then there's all the sounds in your own environment. Now just allowing your attention now to be complete with what you hear, and now bring 100% of your awareness just to refocus on what you smell right now. What can you detect as you just surrender into your sense of smell? As you attune to what sense you can pick up in the space that you are right now. And then allowing that to complete, and now bringing all of your awareness to what you can detect with your taste buds. If we were doing this in a workshop, I would be giving you a piece of chocolate right now, or a dried cherry. If you have something right in your environment that you can taste, that's wonderful. But if you're not able to do that, just tuning into those subtle layers of flavor that might be lingering from the very last thing that you ate or drank. Tasting the licorice and the dandelion inside of my herbal tea right now. What can you detect with your sense of taste in this moment? Letting that go, and now bringing your awareness to your sense of touch. What does it feel like to gently stroke some part of your body, either through your clothes or skin to skin? What do you notice about the sensation or the feeling of how you're sitting or standing? How your clothes are on your body? How about the temperature of the air that's touching any of your skin that's exposed? There's just the subtlest of breezes coming through the window over there that I can feel the coolness on the front of my body. And then allowing that to complete. And next I'm going to invite you to very, very slowly and with a very soft focus to open your eyes and just see where your eyes fall. And just allow that sense of your sight to just move slowly, maybe from object to object, and notice when you bring 100% of your presence to the sense of sight or seeing, what do your eyes encounter? Not just objects, but colors or textures or patterns of light or shadow. And then as a grand finale to this practice, I invite you, just as if you were the conductor of an orchestra who's calling in the string section or the brass section, to call in all of the other senses now in your own symphony of sensual aliveness. Noticing in this moment, with all of the senses alive, what do you hear? What do you smell? What do you taste, feel, and see? And take note if there's certain senses for you that feel much more dominant than others in this moment or in general. And now I'm just going to invite you to imagine that you're with your sacred lover. Your sacred lover could be God, not a person at all, but your inner lover, or it could be an actual person or partner that you do make love with. Just imagine what it would be like to make love from this place of aliveness with all of your senses. Allowing your senses to be a gateway into this presence, this vast field where miracles happen. What would it be like to make love from this place? I'm just taking a moment to close your sensual activation practice by maybe bringing your hands to your heart or your womb or your belly. And just taking a moment to thank this body of yours for all of the ways that it helps you stay connected to the earth and her elements, earth, air, fire, and water, and how much pleasure is available to you just simply by being in this human body. What an incredible gift it is. And just send some love to this body of yours with its beating heart. For all the ways that it loves and supports you and gives you so much pleasure. Just opening your eyes and bringing your awareness back here to our circle whenever you're ready. Wow, I'm so amazed at how much more I see and feel. You know, when as you were doing that, I became aware of all these things, and I'm like, wow, it's been right here. You know, like I have this little lamp right next to me it's putting off a certain brightness because this room it's not bright enough. And for me, so I use this little bedside lamp that I bring into the office when I do the show. And I realized I hadn't even noticed before, it's giving out warmth. You know, it's giving off the heat. And it's also giving off light. And thank you for giving me an excuse to grab my chocolate bar out of my purse. I had caramel with black sea salt. Woohoo! Oh my God, love it.
It was really nice, really, really nice. And I just appreciate, I can tell how long you've been doing this work because there's so much patience on your end, Lisa, with just this present moment. And in that patience, I can feel an allowing, a permission for my body to really get to feel. And as an empath, what was so cool is as we go into all of our senses and all of our body, we tend to center a bit in the heart just because it's the middle of our energy field. And I could feel so much of our group in our hearts. I mean, we're still there right now. It's still totally there. Nice, high, cushiony, beautiful heart chakra feeling right now, which is so nice. Yeah, so I love how simple it can be. I know that you go into a lot more complexities in some programs and with certain clients, but I also just love the simplicity of, hey, you know, we have this divine body and just coming back into it. I think this would be actually a good time for us to talk about the live course that you're offering. I'm really excited because typically this stuff is digital and pre-recorded when we're on summits, and I caught you at a time when you were wanting to create a new class, new course, and so it just dovetailed perfectly. Again, that feminine thing, I love that. So that you're offering our audience, the class audience, our women, a chance to do a live course with you for just an amazing, amazing price. So let's invite everyone to click on that special offer button. I've had somebody who said that they wanted to ask a question, but you need to raise your hand. Start to anytime. It's fine to do that for you to show up on my board. They said that on the Q&A, so either type it into the chat box or go ahead and raise your hand and be brave. So let's go to Awakening with Class. I'm sorry, Awaken. Now I've got Awakening Shakti on my mind. Awaken, AwakenAWITHClass.com/Lisa S. Now, everyone, we have to put Lisa S because we had a Lisa Jaya Waters earlier this year. So I love that you're an S, like it's in Sizzle 7 S, the S curve, right? So Lisa S. And also, if you're on the web page, you can just click on that special offer button. And do you have access to it right now, Lisa? Would you be able to walk us through it?
Yes, actually I should get there too. So let me get, actually let me go here.
Because I can just start
Awakening with Class. Yeah, awakeningwithclass.com/Lisa S.
Exactly. /Lisa S. So basically, everyone, it's a 4-week course. This is a live opportunity to do all sorts of exercises and to focus on your feminine, and it's called Sacred Pleasure, Be Ecstatically Alive in Your Body.
I'm so excited to have created this, Vicki, and I am so grateful to you for nudging me about this. Because I've been, it was a beautiful, wonderful opportunity to bring this teaching forward. So I just got excited. I'm like, wow, this is, easily 4 sessions, and so we're going to spend the first, and it's going to be live, which, I love doing. So, if you can't make it to the live call, of course, you can get the recording later. But, ample opportunity for you to engage, ask questions, get some spot coaching. And we're going to do 4 weeks all on pleasure, starting on the 24th of September. It'll be 4 consecutive Thursdays. And the first thing we're going to do is just spend some time looking at what's in the way of pleasure. Like, how do we clear the pathway for pleasure? So, what are our current attitudes, our limiting beliefs, our cultural conditioning, why we've been taught to fear pleasure, how to find our right relationship with it. We talked a little bit about this, and the shadow aspects of pleasure so that we can just stay really awake to all the aspects of it. We're just going to take a really good look at it and also really kind of set the paradigm for us about why feeling good is actually good for us. And, why would we be turned away from that? There's a lot of reasons for that, partly because there's so much power and potency in it for us as women, right? It's such a feminine, embodied way for us to access our power. So, of course, we would be turned away from something that would give us access to that kind of power inside, right? We don't need intermediaries for that. So we're going to really look at that part at the beginning. And then we're going to start talking about that'll kind of clear the way as my thinking, right? Have us deal with some of the stuff that might be in the way. Then there's more of an opening for us to start really activating the sensual body of the goddess within. So we're going to be invoking the sacred aspects of pleasure and working with some ancient goddess archetypes around sexuality, sensuality, and pleasure. We'll be talking a little bit more about these concepts we've been touching on today about Tantra and pleasure being a gateway into what's divine. How do we drop out of the mind, stop that chatter and get more into the body and open up our intelligence, our sensual intelligence, and more deeply surrender. So that's the second week. And then the third week, I'm calling it relaxing into our erotic essence. We'll be at that point, I think, comfortable, hopefully enough, connected enough, and you'll have done the preliminary work that you can really start to activate more of the sexual energy. So we're going to talk about, why we're designed for pleasure. We're going to talk about working with our breasts and our heart chakra as a really important precursor to opening up our orgasmic energy. We're going to be talking about this kind of masculine way we can be in bed where we're, pushing really hard for the orgasm, and we're kind of in a more masculine driving mode a lot of times instead of in a more relaxing into our wellspring of sensuality. We're going to be talking about how do we basically make love from that more feminine place and support our partners to meet us there, why they want to, and also just the very unique anatomy of arousal in our female body. It's very, very, very different than in a male body. And then we'll have the final week to talk a little bit more about those sexual pieces, but also what does it look like to live orgasmically and just be in our feminine radiance in all areas of our life. How do we protect that energy as it starts to waken up? How do we keep it moving forward? How do we create more joy and attract more soulful partnership and abundance if that's something that you're wanting? Or, of course, just deepening into your own inner marriage with what's awakening inside of your body. So I'm super stoked to be bringing this to you. I've been wanting to bring this teaching forward, and thank you, Vicki, for the mentoring, the encouragement, and the support to make it happen. We're going to do it.
And thanks for letting us be the platform, letting us be the place. So if any of you have been on any summit or anything, then we don't really need to say much for you to know that for a live course, what an incredible deal it is to have a live course for $147. But then I said to Lisa, which if you know me, know I do this. I said, Lisa, can they bring a friend for free? It's like, I just wanted to push it a little further because I wanted double the women to get the exposure to this.
Yeah.
Our work on this planet right now, and I've got to start learning to say our play on this planet. But any way you look at it, what it is it's about bringing in more of this feminine sensibility while also, just as Lisa already said, while continuing to show up day to day. So we're not saying be light and fluffy and fly away or go inward and never come back. We're saying there's this balance, but it's been so overweighted in the masculine that we need this kind of work now to bring us back into full trust and engagement in our bodies. This is just so needed for Shakti to come through. So I'm just so appreciative that you're offering this. And yeah, it's just really neat. And we're going to Europe, and I still think I'm going to try to find a way to do this, because we're going to be bopping around and everything, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be there. I'm going to find a way, because this is really, really cool to do this work. And I also find, Lisa, that when I do this kind of work, because our culture is so saturated with the masculine, that I have to keep coming back to it. And I want to. It's not a bad thing, but I'm just finding that, I'll start to do these behaviors and things, and I'll start to notice, I'm kind of losing my feminine vavu. I'm sort of losing that, I'm going right to what you said. I'm going right to you should read this thing to my partner. I'm going right to the direct masculine route. So, I would invite anyone who's interested in this, if you've done this kind of work before, to dive back in and do it again. Because this is the kind of thing we live through our bodies as women. We we live through the experiential. So it's not like, oh, I get it. Mentally, I get it. Move on. It's, let me just keep doing it. It's time to do it. It's new. It's new in the moment, you know?
Yeah. So true. And you totally sold me on the bring a friend for free thing when you said we could reach more women. I was like, wow, that's exciting, because I'm all about that too. But the other really awesome thing about bringing a friend for free, which of course means that this $147 program, if you guys decide to split it, is less than $75 a piece.
Crazy.
But the other crazy, yeah, seriously. I have another program right now that is launching that's going to be $3,400, and so this really, I just don't do this, and I'm happy to do it, and I'm excited to do it because I just feel like it right now, and I want to have the opportunity. It's another reason, frankly, it's really inexpensive. I haven't taught this before. I want to test this out, you know, and I'm looking for those of you that are, you know, willing to get in the soup with me and tell me what's working and how are the practices for you and what, you know, like be with me in this and help kind of really develop it. So it's one of those,
well, in all
fairness,
you haven't taught it specifically in this name, but you've worked with clients and taught all of these methods.
Exactly.
So, I just want to be clear that people know how much experience you have and how long that you've been doing this, since 2001, you know. So it's not like you're just going, okay, now what could I try?
No, you're absolutely right.
That works.
Yeah, exactly. And I teach modules like this a lot in my courses. This is the first time that I've actually really developed, you know, more than a module around it, because there's so much here. You know, there's so much for us to explore here. So I'm really excited to have, you know, these 4 weeks to really dive in on it. And I also just want to say, around bringing a friend, this, for some of you, this might feel scary to you, like that, you know, oh, you know, I know for a lot of women, you know, I tend to attract some very high achieving professional women to my work, and it's kind of like they've got everything dialed in their world, but they feel disconnected from their body or their sexuality or their femininity. And so, you know, that might be you. You might feel like, well, this is kind of the last frontier for me. I've done all kinds of spiritual growth and all of this and that, but I haven't really gotten so connected to myself as a sensual being. And so that can be tender work. You know, I really get it. It can feel vulnerable and scary. And so that's another great reason to have a friend come with you, because you can do it together. You know, you can deepen together. You can have, you know, a built-in buddy and do the, you know, talk about the homework and check in with each other about what's coming up. If, you know, it just helps a lot. So it was a brilliant idea, Vicki, and I'm so glad that you suggested it, because I think it's not only a great deal for you guys, but I feel like, you know, as your teacher and guide in this particular course, it will really support the overall field and the learning and the transformation that I think is going to be possible with the group of women that choose to jump in here.
I can feel it, definitely. Well, I would say that we are pretty much, we've used our time up here, honey. So what I would ask now is let's just so before we end, I'd like you to, just from everything that's gone on here, if you have any, you know, final area that you'd like to share, is there anything that you're wanting to share with us or talk about that we didn't cover, that's, especially if it's pertinent to the course that you'll be offering?
I'm sure there's plenty, but that's not what's present in me right now. So I mean, what's present in me right now is just this deeper invitation, of course, to the course, if that resonates with you, but wherever you find yourself right now, just a deeper invitation into welcoming in pleasure as a way for you to welcome yourself into your own Shakti, you know, your own feminine experience, or if you're a man who's joining us, you know, to support the women in your life, that there is so much potency, I believe, in power for us to be the change agents on the planet that I know we're all here to be, in whatever way we're doing that, as mothers and lovers and leaders, and to do that in a way that is sustainable for our female bodies, and our tender feminine and fierce feminine hearts, and to, go forth and do that in a way that, doesn't have you continually drawing so much on maybe that more masculine way of being, and to trust, even if it feels scary, that you will be supported in that you'll find a way to do that, because I just feel really, really strongly, I know you do too, Vicki, I can just feel that so much in you, that, that is part of the shift that's happening on the planet, and that we are lovers as women, and we are, we know about pleasure, we know about the body, we know about beauty, and that when we can hold that, that as part of our feminine radiance and be that is so truly, I think, connected to what our ultimate divine purpose is. Not so much going out and, accomplishing all that we're accomplishing, which is beautiful and wonderful, but just to, hold this light of your own radiance and your own Shakti, and know that that's enough. That's more than enough. That's a lot.
I've noticed too, hon, that when I'm doing more of this kind of pleasure-oriented, feminine, inward work, that my outside world, I may continue to do things that need to be done, but the nature of those things, it's almost like when you go on a journey. I had a friend who's driving out here, and she's coming out to take her boards in Phoenix, and she had it all set up to just dash out here. And everything in my being was Shakti was speaking through me, the universe was speaking through me to tell her, hey, why not, you're going to get here. The end. So why not just really enjoy the ride? Why not just go to Colorado, go to those places you've been wanting to go? And really, literally, she said that shifted everything for her. I said, and something else that came through is I said, why not make that your, like an analogy for your boards, right? Beautiful. She's coming out to study, right? And she was coming out with such you could just feel it when I would talk to her about it. This is masculine energy around, I've got to make this work, and da-da-da. But now, when she talks about it already, you can feel that she trusts that she's going to take the boards. They're there. She knows what she needs to know deep down inside of herself. And now it's more about enjoying the process of the fact that she's going to be in Sedona, and enjoying the out here, enjoying. And I thought, geez, doesn't change the end result. It's just the beauty of the journey along the way that it ends up changing for us. So thank you for bringing me back, even just with that activation. I could feel my whole body slow down and myself become more aware of everything. So thank you for that.
So beautiful. And I say a lot that we need to beat the drum for each other. So it's a beautiful story in, you beating the drum for this sister around what's possible for her, reflecting that back to her. And thank you, Vicki, for this call and for all the work that you're doing, because it's so important that we keep reminding each other and that we find these safe places where we feel encouraged around that, so that we can remember what we already know. But we need that, it's hard sometimes to take a stand for what we're talking about in the face of the culture. So it's so powerful and valuable to have calls like this and have sisters and, have people that just say, hey, let's not forget, who we are and what we need here to make this, deeper and more sustainable. And we're going to get to that end destination, and still, but in a different way.
Much fuller, much fuller. Because sometimes you get to those ends and they're empty because all you were doing was you missed the whole journey.
Yeah.
Right? So this is wonderful. Thank you, everyone on the call. I could just have felt into the heart of the call today. And thank you. Not everyone from the whole season is here on this call. I know this, but thank you for such a beautiful season. We'll be keeping in touch on the off season. You'll be getting communications from me for sure. Thank you, Lisa, for being with us here. And with a tiny, with a little bit of sadness, I say goodbye for this season, for this season, and we will definitely, I'll probably see you before actually 2016, everyone, because we'll probably have a special call or two. So much love to everyone. Have a beautiful and pleasurable week. Go out, enjoy yourself inside and out. Much love. Bye now.